let's drill down into the quarterly crime stats that were released this afternoon. I'm joined by the Deputy Minister of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, Hlengiwe Mkhize. Good evening and thank you very much for your time. If you look at the actual numbers for just that 3-month period, October to December, 4,124 murders, 12,218 rapes. And this is an increase compared to the same period in 2019. So we can't really blame an easing of lockdown restrictions. It's incredibly disheartening news. Why do you think the numbers have gone up?
Hey, thank you very much, Sally, for having me. Good afternoon or early evening to the listeners. I think we're all struggling with the interpretation of the statistics in view of the fact that we see this rise. I mean, it's better when you talk percentages, but once you give the number of victims, it really sends shocking waves. It's scary for most women out there. So the difficulty we're having is that there has been greater awareness consistently. There has been high-level political interventions. We also, as a country, have the National Strategic Plan. Minister Cele, I could feel his sadness as he was going through the statistics because he's part of the IMC. So it's really a question of saying, are we targeting this at a right level? Or we should not only be looking at the criminal justice system, but in terms of the National Strategic Plan policy framework that has been adopted, maybe targeting our energies on prevention, which means through the district development model, looking at community structures. Those are the things we have started doing with Costa, Salka, and all those structures at a district development model and below at a local level.
And you're making such a good point, really, because the police can only do so much. When, you know, the police minister explaining that so many of the murders and rapes happen either in the victim's home or in the perpetrator's home. That's behind closed doors. Very often, women are raped by people who they know well, who they allow into their homes, who they think they can trust, which suggests, as you say, we need to do something different. But what exactly is that?
You know, we are thinking in partnership with civil society that we really have to put, first of all, we need adequate resources for civil society organizations that are out there backing on a daily basis, especially in our rural communities. They should be well-resourced so that they don't spend time looking for resources, but they spend time living closely with victims or survivors of violence, but also looking very carefully at our police stations, in our courts, so as to ensure that we leave nothing to chance when it comes to sentencing.
We seem to be so good at diagnosing the problem, you know, but not good at fixing it. And partly that is because some of these fixes take a lot of drill down into community level assistance. We are seeing that the relief fund, the GBV relief fund, is going to target exactly some of those things you're talking about. So providing more support for civil society organizations that give shelter to abused women, that help educate boys, young men, to have a different approach and understanding of what a woman's rights are. What about alcohol? Because, you know, that's something that's really been brought into sharp relief with the lockdowns. Do you think that that's probably one of our bigger problems? And if so, is it just more of the chipping away, education, support, which is frankly going to take years?
Well, obviously, you know, substance abuse can be a contributory factor. But in some of these terrible cases, you find that it's sophisticated syndicates who plan. They will have a plan for taking out women socially, and then from there they plan how do they take them back, and that's where you find that a targeted one will definitely be murdered that evening, raped and murdered.
Yeah.
Buried in a shallow grave. So it's quite a complex network that we must look at.
Definitely. I have to ask you about the results this week of the NIDS-CRAM latest survey, which of course assesses the economic impact of COVID-19. Really worrying signs that hunger in children is increasing. Now, I would imagine this is something that it's not only your ambit, but it's also social development. But this is happening when we've still got our social relief of distress grants going. Why is hunger among children increasing, and what is government planning to do?
Well, you know, hunger is on the increase, mainly because when you look at vulnerable families, whoever gets a grant from government, it's likely to feed a bigger family. So even children who are getting grants, parents will have to budget and look at transport, where do the nearest ECD, how do I pay for this child? At the end of the day, when we look at countries where I think they are succeeding, for instance, the education system leaves nothing to chance. You know, you talk to people in the UK who have left South Africa, they would say, in the evening, if I have anything to give to a child, I might give a fruit or so. But the system is such that they eliminate these extreme forms of deprivation, which can affect a child's cognitive development, emotional personality formation, and so on. So we really have to do more. And also, vulnerable ECD centers are in poor communities. And again, it talks to partnerships and coalitions in areas that are established and families are fairly capable. They add tremendous value to a center for their children's well-being. They have resources they bring to the table. Yeah. They have networks they bring to the table.
Yeah, networks, partnerships, support for vulnerable people. Well, let's hope this time next year we have a very different picture as the GBV fund starts supporting women and perhaps as more is done to help those who are hungry and vulnerable. Thank you very much, Deputy Minister of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, Hlengiwe Mkhize.